Welcome to the Collective Genius Podcast, the show for real estate investors who are looking to scale.
Welcome into the Collective Genius Podcast, a podcast for real estate investors that want to grow and scale their businesses. Another week, and I am excited to bring you another guest, another longtime CG member. Please welcome in from St. Joseph, Missouri. I can't wait to tell this story because there's no one that I'm probably more connected with from the standpoint of geography than my next guest. Please welcome in from St. Joseph, Missouri, Mr. Ryan Haywood. Welcome in, my friend. How are you?
Thank you. Doing good. And yes, it is fun that geographically we're close.
Yep.
But we're also close because you were in my story from like even trying to get me in. So that is the fun part.
To tell this story. As everybody knows that listens to this show on a weekly basis, I like to bring in, our members, people that I'm, obviously develop a relationship with. And the best conversations are the ones that, these are a lot like the conversation that you and I have over the phone. And so what we're going to do today for you, if you're watching on YouTube or you're listening, you've downloaded this, maybe you're on a run right now and you're listening to this and want to learn something. Thank you, by the way, for listening. I want to bring you into the kind of conversations over the years that Ryan and I have had. He's got such a cool story in this space. And I know a lot of you that are full-time real estate investors can relate with this. Those that are making their way, grinding right now to get to, this level, you're going to enjoy this story as well. There's a common thread with all real estate investors. Ryan does a podcast. He knows this. There's a common thread. And generally, most of them are unhireable, at least at this phase of their life. Maybe they were early on and they realized that later. And then there's this common drive. We were talking about this pre-show. There's this common drive of people going, I need to be doing something. And Ryan is definitely that. Why don't we start off, Ryan, why, we're going to tell your backstory, but let's start off with what you are doing right now, where the business is that you've grown over the years. Obviously, you're in St. Joseph, Missouri. For those that don't know, that's a super small market just north of Kansas City, right on the Missouri border, one city that I've been in many, many times, and is not a massive market. You were impressive from day one because you were doing a lot of business in probably the smallest market that has ever been associated as a member. So why don't you tell everybody where you're at today, then we'll go backstory and tell them how you got there.
Yeah. It's so different too of what business looks like now versus what it looked like at the very beginning, but it was all part of the plan. And sometimes there's a few times in the process of getting here that we kind of like got sidetracked of like, what is the real goal? So that whole story is crazy. Now the business, over the course of time, we built up a portfolio of rental properties. So that is a big part of the business, is managing the rental portfolio. We still wholesale. We're still averaging about 40 to 50 deals a year on the wholesale side. But that also looks different. We had a team. Now the team consists of myself and the COO, Clint. And then also we've started doing some flips. The flip game is a little bit longer of a game, but it's not as grueling and intense time consumption wise. And so the combination of those three is what the business looks like, but in a very scaled down version that it allows me to be the dad I want to be. It allows me to be the husband I want to be, and it allows me to be the person I want to be, and not have all of the overhanging stress of running a business and doing 115 wholesale deals a year and buying houses and all of those things. When you compound those together, it is pretty much your life. And so everything is good. It feels different. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's so good right now.
I remember a conversation that we had on the phone where you told me that you were finally at a point where you understood exactly what you wanted the business to be. If you don't when you started out, if you don't have these goals of, I want to do hundreds of deals and I want to have hundreds of rentals, if you don't have those aspirations, do you think you get to this point where you seem today so calm and just such great perspective of what you want in life?
I think that having a good ground base why. Everybody talks about what's your why, what's your why. But really having a good, thought out, time consuming why is what propels you to get to this point. And then when you're in the midst of it, you hit a wave, and the wave can kind of shift your perspective a little bit of, okay, now I want to do this, and now I want to go here, now I want to have 100, now I want to do 125. And so I think that you can't get to this point without having a very clearly defined why and then sticking to it. But sometimes that means you have to stop and be like, wait, what am I doing? And does this actually serve the purpose of why I wanted what I wanted when I wanted it? If that makes sense.
It does. And that why evolves for a lot of people from where they were when they started in the business to where they are today. Like, you have 4 kids now, that the why may have been the same always, but it may evolved in regards to the team and how much you wanted to work on a daily basis. Those things can evolve, but this goes back to that common thread I was talking about earlier. Everyone that I know that is doing the business and life at a high level, it's all supporting why they are doing it. Like, they have a reason behind everything. And if they are looking at a new wave, to use your language there, then it has to go along with their one-page plan or their behind the why. If it doesn't support that, then they have to eliminate it or find a strategic partnership to make it make sense, right? Where they don't have to put in those type of efforts that they may have done early on in their business, which is a great segue to where, you started. I know you from the original conversation that we had. I was so excited to talk to you. Your application comes in. Well, actually, I was excited first because at an event, I think it was David Leko that came up to me and said, "Hey, I've got a guy that's using our software and is doing 80 plus deals a year in a really small market you probably never heard of. It's St. Joseph, Missouri." I was like, "Excuse me?
What?
In St. Joe, he's doing 80 plus deals a year?" And I said, I'd love to talk to him first and foremost because I went to high school 15 miles from where you live and grew up. And so I had all these great stories about how many times I'd been to St. Joseph, Missouri, and get on the Zoom with you. And you couldn't have been more of a skeptic. And we'll get to that later of the collective genius. I was like, dude, we're related. We're bonding here. You gotta love this, right? And you were like, "No, man, I don't know if this is for me." I was blown away. But knowing you now, I totally understand because you were always you always understood where you wanted to be, and you didn't necessarily need to be around a bunch of people that were doing more. But we'll get to that in a bit. Where I want to go to is where you started. You didn't start in real estate.
No.
Where did you start before you got into real estate? Tell everybody what you were doing.
So it was sales. I started my professional career, started out as a store manager for Foot Locker. And I changed stores multiple different times, St. Joe, Overland Park, Bannister. I was all over the place running a Foot Locker store. And then transitioned from that to a call center where I was training a sales team it's a sales team, but it was a collections call center. So I was training people how to call and collect on past due credit card bills and then started training how to collect on past due auto payment bills. I went and opened a call center in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, which was pretty freaking fun. And then started selling fiber optic internet for a service provider here in Northwest Missouri.
Door to door?
It was a little bit of everything. I was doing door-to-door sales, but commercially, so doing business sales.
Yeah.
I was doing residential door-to-door. I was the only salesperson they had at the beginning of their business, so I did all of it. And then as the business grew, more and more people were being hired, and I became a sales manager, and bunch of stuff changed. Even just the business leadership changed. Started to make me feel a little uncomfortable. Things started to transpire to make me feel uncomfortable. And then finally it was just like, I'm done. I'm done chasing this constant. And one thing specifically, hopefully I'm not getting off track here, but one thing that really propelled me into entrepreneurship specifically was in sales. Usually your reward for doing really well is a pay cut somehow. A guy goes out and does a fantastic job selling, and then it's like, hey, we're gonna change your pay structure, and they'll propose it to you in the guise of, this is going to be good for you,
Right?
This is going to help you. But the reality is, you're too expensive to have, so we're going to change your pay structure, which is going to help them.
I can't tell you how many, and this is where this is why we've always gotten along, is where you left out there is that you were always very successful when you were running Foot Locker stores. You clearly were looked at as someone that can come in and change the store around. I mean, that Bannister Mall one that you're talking about, I remember back in those days, that was a really tough mall. Like, it was a lot of crime, gang activity. I mean, you couldn't even walk three guys couldn't walk together. You had to break it out in twos. I remember walking in that mall back when I was in high school.
But I didn't know that, though, and they didn't tell me that.
Of course they didn't. Of course they didn't. Because going back to what you were just saying, which is you were successful, and then all of these corporate, and I'm the same way. Like, I can't tell you how many times I had a conversation with a comp plan change because I had become a regional manager, and you would sit down with someone and they're like, okay, hey guys, here's how we're going to sell this. If they do the same amount of work, they're going to make the same that they did last year. Obviously, if they don't, they won't, but they can't make more than they could have made on the previous comp plan. We're going to tell them that. We're going to tell them that they do the same amount of work. It's just we're cutting it and making it a little bit different, basically making it harder for them just to break even to what the number that they made the year prior. If you're listening to this right now and you're a middle manager, a regional manager, stand up for your people, because what happens is, especially your performers, they will leave you and go to do something else and be successful, especially your high-end, your top 3 people. They'll go and make a bunch of money for somebody else, or do what Ryan did, which is go out and say, you know what, I can do this on my own in some capacity. So you do that. Where do you leave and where do you go?
So, walking away from the W-2 world, having absolutely no clue what we were doing. In fact, our 3rd child was about to be born, and it was actually his birthday was the last day I returned. I took paternity leave under the description of sick time because I had it, and back at that company, if you didn't use it, you lose it. So I'm like, I might as well take the time off. I don't want to be here anyway, so take the time, get paid, use up that sick time bank that I had, but had no clue what we were doing. And I remember every bit of this, every single detail I remember perfectly clear. But Megan and I were sitting on Halloween back in 2019, and I was watching TV, she was looking at Facebook, and there was an acquaintance of ours that had done what was called wholesaling.
Mm.
And she's like, I feel like you would be really good at this. And I'm like, nah, never even heard of it. Not paying attention. And she's like, just listen, just watch this reel. Like, listen to what this guy's doing. And I'm like, understood the concept of selling a house. And I'm like, I don't want to do that because you got to go get licenses and all this. She's like, well, I don't think he's licensed. I'm like, I don't know. So to me, I wrote it off. But it was in a couple days later, Megan's like, I really think you need to look into this. And she had done her research and she's like, okay, you get a house under contract and then you sell the contract. And I'm like, if you want, I'll look into it. And then Maxwell did a 30-day wholesaling challenge. And she's like, just follow this 30-day wholesaling challenge. It'll get you your first deal. And then again, the hang up, I was not on social media at all at that time. You had to have a Facebook profile. And I'm like, I'm not going to do this.
You're such an
She's
old
like,
soul.
I know, man, but like, not because I don't love technology. Like, I love social media. I hate what it does to you in the sense of like overload of information. And yeah, so had to suppress it. Still have to suppress it in my life. But so she's like, I'll do the Facebook thing. You just do the challenge. And I'm like, okay, fine. And so fast forward, I got my first deal in 14 days of the 30-day wholesaling challenge. And after I did that, it was just like I got the taste of it. And it was actually really fun. And if you're a salesperson, the thrill of the sale is the sale. Like, why do I like? Yeah, it is. Why do I like doing sales? I like that adrenaline rush I get from getting a house under contract, or from selling a pair of shoes, or from having the number one sales team on the floor for whatever. Like, I love that adrenaline rush is what gets me through life. And so once I had the taste of a wholesale deal, then it was like, oh, lights out. And in the first month, I think we did 7 in the very first month after that first one. We went to Maxwell had a live event, We Live 2020. We went to that event, and while at that event, 6 of my deals closed. And I'm just like looking at my online banking, and for the first time in my life, like $50,000 was deposited into my bank account. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's more than I would get 6 months worth of work. And that only took me like, I don't even think I've put 40 hours into this. And yeah, then from there, it was just like, okay, nobody in this town had been doing it. The town of St. Joe has been on a downhill trend for years. So there was tons of distressed properties. I'm just going to do this. And we did like 115 in our first year, and then just kept doing it. And to the point where I was making enough money that then I started feeling in a position, this is where you guys came in. I started feeling like I didn't have anybody around me that was doing anything close to what I was doing financially or career-wise. And I started to kind of feel lonely. And that's when I had a conversation. It was with Josh at Deal Machine.
That's right. It wasn't David. It was Josh. You're right.
It was Josh. I had told Josh, I'm like, I just feel alone. And it was weird. It was a weird, like, dark, lonely feeling. And the part of me was like, oh, just get over it. Just get back to work. But I was like, I honestly feel alone. I don't have anybody that's doing what I'm doing. There's nobody in St. Joe wholesaling. Now there is, but there was nobody then. And I just was like, I don't know what to do. And that's when he was like, actually, I think I know what would be really good for you. And that's to pick up the story of where you guys came into play.
So you learned about it from someone that you were using the technology to help you buy. You were getting their data, the door knocking app at the time. That's now much more than that, obviously.
Yeah.
And you get on this call with me, and you got a Green Bay Packers hat on. I remember it like it was yesterday, and it's probably 5 years ago now. And I just remember, like, it was, for the most part, pretty cold. I mean, uh, were you just a skeptic of communities like this?
Yeah, I mean, I had not. The only exposure I had to a community was Maxwell's We Live, but it was an event. It was just like you pay to go,
Right.
and then you're done.
Did you not
The
like that
whole
event?
No, I loved it. In fact, that event like gave Megan and I the like we came away from that. Okay, we're ready to go. We're ready to do this. The hang up for me was like having um at the time a master class, I guess is what you would call it, or um like a big group where you're always going to be involved was intimidating.
Uh,
Because then it was like, okay, well, I'm gonna be. Does this even make sense? Am I big enough for that? Am I jumping the gun? Am I moving too quick? Those were the things that
I
were
see.
going through my head.
I see.
It wasn't
It
so
wasn't
much
us.
like,
It was you.
it was totally me. It was all me.
Yeah.
Um, and like, yeah, I don't want to fast forward the story, but it was all of the things that I was having doubt over. Am I big enough to be in a community like this? Will I fit in? Am I ready for that commitment? All of those things. Like even price, like we talked about price, and I think I was worked up about that. Like talking to Megan about, hey, this is how much it's going to cost to be in this group. I had already like talked myself out of it, and she's like, well, that's like one or two deals.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you're right, but it
Well,
was still like, did I belong there?
well, if anyone wants to know who the superstar is in this relationship, we all know it's Megan.
It's definitely Megan for sure.
Because she got you into this business,
Yeah.
and then she got you to get off of the hump when it came to us. And I just remember you telling me that, I think, on our second call, and you were still like asking questions about it, even though I could tell your wife was going to make you do it if you didn't, but you still had like detailed questions. And now it makes more sense knowing that side of the story. But I remember you coming into your first event and hearing that from you, just what you just gave of, not knowing if I'd fit in. So I'm thinking, man, he's going to be an introvert. My biggest worry, and for those that are listening, if you've ever considered and you had the same feelings as Ryan, my biggest worry is when I have people that I talk to, on the other side, the application, they come in and they're just a little bit introverted. My biggest worry, they're going to struggle with communicating and getting to know and develop relationship. We all know relationships is ultimately why you do this. And I was really worried about that. And then your first presentation, you break out magic tricks and blow everyone away. And I was like, Ryan, that, that's not the same guy I talked to.
Okay. So I got to tell you, I don't know when's a good point to mention what I have laying on the desk in front of me, but
Now.
it's all here. So
Now.
that whole process is, I wrote a book. It's called From Commission to Capital. It is my story from shoe sales to real estate investing. But you have an entire chapter in this book. And so you have to know some things before we can even talk about that, what you've brought up. So our conversation where I'm like, yes, I'm in, we're committed, we're going to do this. And then you had told me, hey, our first event is in, I think it was May. I think we were like maybe a month away from doing it. And he's like, I say you said you have to have a presentation, and we have this little competition. And the winner of the competition gets this like wrestling style belt. And I'm like, what's the competition? You're like, so whoever has the best presentation. I'm like, okay. And so that just, my anxiety went from 0 to 1,000 first off, because now I'm going to have to get up and do a presentation in a room I already felt like I didn't belong in. But I get off the phone, and Megan could tell you this. She was on the deck watching the 3 kids. She knew I was on the phone with you. I walk out there and I said, okay, we're going to Florida next month. Leon said that there's a competition for the best presentation, and quote, I'm going to win that belt. So, and if you need any validation checks, you can ask Meg, because she's like, I knew the minute that you said belt, I knew that was going to happen. So the magic trick, though, you have to understand, like, first off, magic tricks are so fun. And I've always had fun, and I've always used them. Even how my dad does magic because he's a children's therapist, and so magic tricks help break the ice, help get a conversation started. And so I knew, first off, I need to be comfortable in this room. And to make matters worse, the morning of the presentations, when the presentation started, day one was fine. It was fun. I learned a lot. Day two, I woke up with anxiety because it's like, okay, now we're doing presentations. But on the schedule, I was like last. And I'm like, cool. And then I get into the room, and Ren is like, it's just me and Ren Bartlett. I was always that guy, be early, just because you don't know what opportunities come up from being early. And if you're late, those opportunities aren't going to present themselves. So I'm like, be early, get my cup of coffee, and I'm sitting in there. I meet Ren. He's like, man, the first person already backed out. I'm going to have to find somebody to take their spot. And I'm like, I'll do it. And at the time, I'm like, what are you doing? Why'd you just say you'll do it? Like, I don't want to go first. And so I ended up going first. I did this magic trick to honestly just break the ice of I need to be able to talk clearly without being so shaky. So let's all just get on the same page here. And it was fun. And I think it went well.
Yeah, it went more than better than well. It went great. So much so that I remember Ren texting me during it and say, who's the new guy? He is crushing right now. It was like,
That's awesome.
Which new guy? I mean, we got 20 some odd new guys. And he said, Ryan out of St. Joseph, Missouri. And I was like, what? No way. He was the last person I would have thought that would have, done the magic trick and delivered at a super high level. And obviously you became a leader within that community. There's a great shot of you. It may be on our website still, of helping me lead a chant with everybody to kind of take us home. And, you are that person that I tell people all the time that even if you're an entrepreneur that's a bit of an introvert, if you just get yourself out of your comfort zone, and 3 times a year or 4 times a year, depending upon the level, you get in the room with like-minded people, you find your tribe. You're super introverted, you'll find another super introverted person that's forcing themselves to be there, and you all will be able to relate to each other and walk each other through this journey that is tough to do on your own. And you don't have to do it on alone. You can have, through the group, you can have 20 best friends. Or if you're just one of those people that's a minimalist and you just say, hey, I just need one good relationship. Those all are things that you can find within this room. When did you, because early on, you, like most people, scale meant something different to you. And it was, we had many conversations about you scaling up your team and scaling up your marketing, even conversations about saying, Joe, you probably had the highest percentage of saturation for anybody within the group because your MSA is so small. We had many conversations about you venturing out to North Kansas City or Topeka, Kansas, or Leavenworth, Kansas. We talked about a lot of different markets that are in those areas. And eventually you got to a point where like, hold on. I'm doing this wrong. I'm not doing it for what I wanted to build. I'm sure you talk about that in the book. Give us a little sneak peek of how that transition happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly the moment where all the next questions we were asking at Collective Genius were, how do we get bigger? How do we get bigger? How do we get bigger? But the resistance of getting bigger started making us feel uncomfortable. And like this idea of scaling, it's like, gosh dang, like I left an environment where I didn't feel like I could even be myself, to the point where I feel like I lost who was Ryan Haywood the person. And I left that so that I could find it again. But then in the process of trying to scale a business to get bigger, 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 bigger into different markets, into different markets, into different markets, I started feeling like, okay, now I'm getting home at 7:30 again. I'm working 16 hours again. I'm not seeing the kids again. And it was just like that. Hold on, this is not. I have to revisit the why, because I've built this thing. We're doing all this stuff. I'm making all this money, but now I'm again trading the thing that I wanted the most, which was to be home, to be present with my family, to watch my kids grow up, to be a supportive spouse, but also to be me. I was losing all that in this process of growth and like trying to catch up with everybody else and to do as much as everybody else was doing. And I realized, hey, this mask doesn't fit. Like this costume doesn't fit me. And that was a really tough pill to swallow too, because I partially enjoyed it, but I enjoyed it for all the wrong reasons. Like I enjoyed it because it's supporting my family. I enjoyed it because it was making me a better dad or spouse. I was enjoying it because I was making more money. That's it. And then I realized like, hey, I can't, this isn't for me anymore. So then like scaling back to what fits better. And I'm so thankful. Like I have to go back and say like, without that group of people at Collective Genius, I wouldn't have been able to put myself in a position to step back. But having that circle of people and friends that are like, hey, make sure you're building a portfolio through all of this. Like, this is all great and fun. You're doing a ton of deals. You better be buying stuff. Like, the number of people at lunch that were like, how many properties do you own? I think maybe I had 6. And they're like, you need to be buying some of these deals. And I'm like, yeah, I know, I should. And like, in the background of all the stuff that we're doing at Collective Genius, then it's like, okay, let's go home and buy properties. Let's go home and build a portfolio. And then I started like playing with the numbers. I'm like, oh my gosh, like if I get to this number of houses, the income goal that we had when we first started is met. And then we can still like do all these other things, but not have the overall pressure of like having to constantly work to make sure that we're fed and that we have all the things that we need. So in that process of like scaling up came okay, you got to scale back. And I have to always go back to Collective Genius, because even in the scale back process, we found our COO, Clint. And I remember very clearly having multiple conversations with you, like, is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? And so scared to make that choice. Even like I told him, like in one of the interviews, I'm like, dude, I want to do this, but I'm not doing anything until Leon tells me yes. And I'm like, I'm going to call Leon right now. We'll have a conversation. I'll call you back. And I don't know that you'd straight out said, hey, you're stupid if you don't do this, but that's what it felt like. And it was like the best move that we made. And that was like the start of the scale back.
The scale up or right size the business or right towards your goals and towards your why, people underestimate what talent can do for you in all of those processes. And the conversation that you and I had was from my own experience of running a very lean team and being super profitable with a founder not necessarily having to be involved in day-to-day activities, because you didn't have to have a big team if you had a smart, high-level team. And everything you explained about your COO, I knew that if you did truly want to downshift into a better, I'm really good in third gear versus fifth gear. And so if you want to downshift into third gear, and by the way, for the young people, that's a manual transmission, the stick shift. Look it up. The internet has plenty of examples of what the stick shift looks like. But if you wanted to go down to third, I knew that you were going to be doing it all if you didn't have a right-hand person that is high level, that can be like at an ownership thought process. Maybe not ownership in the business, but at least ownership thought process. And so to those that are listening, scaling up, again, we always say this means something different to everyone. And during that process, scaling up should allow you to hire better talent to give you the option to do what Ryan has done, which is, I don't need to keep pressing forward to get the number that I thought, that just kept growing every year. I can find this very sweet spot with 2 or 3 very highly intelligent people that can help me continue to maintain and also tackle other things. Because part of this process, part of that reason I said you're stupid not to do it, I think I did say that, was you were also looking at other opportunities that a true visionary needs time to vet, commercial assets and multifamily, all these other things that you were looking at that started coming your way. I remember those conversations. And I was like, you won't have time to vet those deals or really even have the time to think them through, because by the time you get home, you're dead tired because you're doing all the day-to-day activities. So if you're listening to this, use those opportunities as you grow your business and your revenues to have someone come onto your team that can help you to continue to maintain and grow while you truly get that opportunity to grow the business to the next level. Now, some people, we know a lot of people in this business that want to be involved in day-to-day, and I still say the same thing to those individuals, because if you still want to be involved in day-to-day, you need someone pushing in the business from a vision standpoint, even if you still love running appointments.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what's great about Clint is like the appointment process, the negotiation process, that is my sweet spot. I love doing that part. The rest of it's like, I don't want to do any of this. Like, this is just this is boring for me to watch. And like, we tried to hire, and at one point 2 years ago, I think we had like 7 people hired on our team, and it is down to there's 2, myself, Clint, and then I have a VA and our transaction coordinator, and that's it.
Yeah.
And because it's such a small, there's no stress about, like, you pick up some of the dumbest things. It's like, hey, we want to grow a business, but nowhere in that process did I even anticipate having to deal with people not getting along. And it's like, oh gosh, like I didn't want to do this, and I don't have to deal with that. Clint and I are like best friends. Clint and I go golfing. Clint and I hang out. Our families hang out, but he's a true, like, hands-on. He does a lot of the business, and I wouldn't be able to do it without him, truthfully. It gives me the ability to pay attention to the rental portfolio, pay attention to my flips, and the dude's also a freaking master flipper, so he has been, extra help in all of those phases.
I say every week on this pod, if it doesn't matter where you are in real estate, you can find what works best for you. It takes some time. You're not going to get there in 3 years. You're not going to get there probably in 5 years. It usually takes some time to understand what you love. It's like anything that you do. It's going to take effort and time out of the gates. There is no work-life balance out of the gates. But you start to see work-life balance when you make enough to start hiring people like Clint, that Ryan, his COO, that Ryan keeps referencing here. It doesn't have to be, not everyone on this that's listening to this wants to grow a $10 million business. They want to grow a nice business, but we can serve all. We can serve the person that wants to run a small business. We can run it. We have rooms for those big ones as well. And I love when people find their sweet spots from more of a balanced standpoint, because it's very rare that someone gets there, and you definitely can't get there without great people. And clearly you've found that. So tell us a little bit more before we get out of here. Tell us, give us some background. We've told a lot of the story, but what else? Why should people buy the book?
Well, the book is the background of why the book happened. In this phase, this last 5 years, 6 years that I was doing this, all 4 of my grandparents passed away. And that was crazy. It was crazy when the first one passed, and then the second one, I'm like, man, what the heck? And then 3 and 4, and I'm like, we're going through this process of like cleaning out their house. And I realized the only thing I knew about my grandparents was like their late life. And I'm like, I don't want that to happen to me. I don't want my grandkids to get to a point where you're cleaning out my belongings and you have no clue what I did in my life. And so I'm like, I'm going to write it down. And I started writing it down and just like, oh, it's just going to be a journal. Like, hopefully they'll find it and it'll be like a fun little read. And then I'm like, man, people might really enjoy this. Like, beyond like my family reading it, my kids are going to enjoy it because I'm giving them a roadmap of like, here's how I went about my life, and here's how I went from having to work for other people to working for myself. Here's also why our family is the way it is and is successful is because of this. But then if there are people that are stuck in a W-2 environment that they don't want to be in, this through the process of my story and my journey, which I keep realizing the camera is here and not here, but through my journey, you can read and see how to get out if you don't want to be in it. So I always say the 2 reasons you might want to buy my book. A, I feel like my story is super unique. It's not unheard of. People leave their 9 to 5 all the time. But the number of times, like through Foot Locker even, like, dude, it was the Bannister Mall stories like are absolutely insane. And then going into the collections world which was fun too. But each piece of my career was only setting me up for the next thing and only preparing me to be successful in the next thing, even in wholesaling real estate. And so, yeah, I think that everybody will enjoy the story because it's a story. This is not a how-to book. I'm not giving you steps on, okay, step 1, step 2. No, this is literally my story on how I got where I'm at today. So if you like a good read, I was told twice by unsuspecting people that they started it and finished it in the same day. And both of those people have never finished a book in a month. And so that was really encouraging.
Well, I can attest, and for those that are listening to this, everything that I tried to get across is what you're trying to get across in your book. Is if you're interested in entrepreneurship, doesn't have to be real estate, but you're interested in the journey of an entrepreneur. That's what I'm trying to provide on a weekly basis. You give obviously more in depth because we went into some of those stories and didn't give enough time to them. The book will.
Yes.
But I think in this journey for entrepreneurs, you just need to see what other people's journey has been. So you know that where that person is today, they started with putting their pants on with their left, depending upon if you're goofy leg or not. You go left to right, right? They put the pants on the same way that we do. And you realize it's that Roger Bannister moment of going, if that person can do it, then I can do it.
Yes.
And that's why I know this is a good read. I haven't read it yet. Haven't got my copy. So tell us where I can go and get that copy.
It's on Amazon. You can go to Amazon.com and you can look up From Commission to Capital by Ryan Haywood. There are 2 spoofs already. Here's what the cover looks like. But there are, we seen it last week on Amazon. There's 2 people that within the same 24-hour window that this launched, there's 2 more From Commission to Capital books. But mine has a shoe on it. You will not be confused. There's a shoe. It's on Amazon. I'd love it if you'd buy it and read it and even give it a review. I'd love it.
Well, cool. We'll get that in the show notes, the link for the book. And then if people want to follow you, I know you don't love social media, but
yes.
I know you have a podcast. So tell us how we listen to podcasts and where we find you.
I am on social media. I just am not like super responsive to messages, but I still look at them. So you can reach out to me, rhaywood13 on Instagram, or at Heritage Home Investments. Heritage_home_investments are the 2 Instagram pages. The Deal Machine podcast, I'm the co-host with David Leko. That has been a huge, huge blessing to my life and my career journey, because without Deal Machine, I would not have done any of the deals that I've done. I would not have known how to do them. So it's been an awesome experience to be 535 episodes of the Deal Machine podcast. It can be found on YouTube, on all the places that you can find podcasts.
Yeah, I'm one of those 520, whatever it is. We shot it in Clearwater at an event, and Deal Machine, I know, has been a longtime CG member and just a friend of the program here, and love everything that they do, especially when I heard your story. I was proud of you before I even knew you, my friend. And I say that because as a kid going to high school in Atchison, Kansas, town of 10,000 people, left Kansas City, middle school, moved to Atchison, Kansas. St. Joe was like our big city.
Yeah.
And yet St. Joe's not huge. And knowing that someone was doing, and at the time, Josh told me, he's like, there's this guy he'll probably do 100 deals this year. And I'm like, in St. Joseph, Missouri.
Yes.
The St. Joseph, Missouri, the home of the Pony Express, like that St. Joseph, Missouri. And he goes, yes.
One.
And I said, the Belt Mall, that's St. Joseph, not St. Louis, St. Joseph. He said, yes. Yeah. And I was like, I got to talk to this guy if he's doing that many deals in St. Joe, because there was nobody else in that room, or probably nobody else in CG history that would know that market the way that I would, right?
No, nobody knew.
And then, of course,
now everybody knows it. Yeah. Everybody knows St. Joe. They're like, oh, we can do deals in St. Joe.
So funny that you say that, because over the years, I've talked to people that have said, yeah, I do deals in St. Joseph. And I go, really? And they're from another area because they're buying there, because you guys let the cat out of the bag, helping people buy rentals in that market, which, there's always enough to go around. And I am just super happy for you. You've married well, my friend. Without Meg, you're not probably having this conversation with me.
No.
Probably
be changing oil at a quickly or something.
Well, you married up, my friend, on so many different levels. Congratulations on all of your success, and can't wait to see the future chapters. It's exciting to have somebody in the group that has gotten to a point where you can just tell your happiness level from the time that you made this decision to go after your why, the podcast, everything that you've been doing. You can just tell you're just at this smooth, tranquilo level, and it's working for you. Life is good, exactly. Right. So again, if people want to find the book and find you, give it to us one more time.
Amazon is where you're going to find the book. It is From Commission to Capital. Don't forget, the green shoe on the cover is the real one. And it says Ryan Haywood. David Leko also wrote the foreword.
Nice.
He had some good things to say in there as well. And then rhaywood13 on Instagram, and also my business page, heritage_home_investments on Instagram.
Well, I always look forward to our conversation. It's the first time we've recorded it, and so hopefully everyone loved this as much as I did. Always great talking to you. Thank you for joining me on the CG podcast, my friend.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, if you would love to be in the room, and I don't know why you wouldn't, with guys like Ryan, we have close to 500 members across the United States and some overseas. If you're a real estate investor, real estate entrepreneur, we've got a level for you. If you're full-time, go to our website, explorecg.com. There you'll find everything that you need. There's an application there. Fill that out. We'll have a conversation on the other side. If we're a good fit, just like Ryan. Didn't think we were a good fit at the beginning. But the more and more we talked, the more and more that he got to a point where it made sense for his business. May not make sense today. May make sense in the future. Let's have that conversation. explorecg.com is where you'll find that. Thank you all. Thanks to my guest, Ryan Haywood, for being a part of this week's CG podcast. Can't wait for next week. Look forward to seeing you then on the Collective Genius Podcast.
New episodes every week. To learn more, visit explorecg.com, where real estate investors come to scale.